Derick Giwner, joined by Jay Bergman for a huge Breeders' Crown weekend event here. We're going to look at the four two-year-olds, $600,000 apiece on Friday, October 25th at Woodbine Mohawk Park. There's a $100,000 guaranteed pick five that starts in race six. And Jay, there's a lot of great action on this card.
A lot of great action and a lot of things happened in last week's eliminations that made the races this week even a little bit more unpredictable. We had some undefeated horses get beaten for the first time, and now we have to find out who the true champions are.
No doubt about it. Let's jump right into the action because we got four to cover. The first one is race number 6 on the card. It's the two-year-old filly trot, 600,000 on the line. Hypnotic AM is the morning line favorite. Sister Sledge actually beat that one last week, which kind of makes it strange that maybe Hypnotic AM is the favorite. We're going to take a look at the elimination from last week where Sister Sledge got the best of her.
Well, you make a good point about who the favorite will be. Obviously, here's a race where they went around the track 1-2, and by all imagination, we thought the Hypnotic AM would have it locked up. But as soon as Sister Sledge pulled on her, she had her number, and it was clear Sister Sledge was the better filly last week. But as is all the races, when it comes to Breeders' Crown eliminations and finals, a lot of times horses need races to get prepared, and I think Hypnotic AM needed that one.
There's no doubt in my mind that that's the case. I mean, she had missed a little bit of time, and the fractions were really fast. And I think trainer Marcus Melander made a point of noting that, perhaps she was a little too hot that race.
Well, I think there's a few things that work there, but I think the biggest issue for a New York Sire Stakes filly is that she's on half-mile tracks all the time, and all of a sudden you head into that big straightaway. She was very good for most of that big straightaway, and then the last part is really what got to her. And I think we've talked about her being a small filly. Maybe her best game is not on the front end on a big track, and I think from the rail on Friday night, I don't expect her to go to the front.
Just to look at one of the other horses in here, or maybe a couple of them, May Baby won a huge speed mile and then kind of tired the Indiana bred. Can you see her maybe changing tactics or maybe being a little bit tighter off that mile?
It's interesting you say that. I find that horses like this, horses where a driver who's not familiar with the rest of the other drivers drives in Indiana but doesn't drive Grand Circuit, finds themselves with a great horse, but it comes without the strategy. And I think that's a real problem for James Yoder is, he needs to have a little strategy to win this race, but I think he has a legitimate candidate.
And, of course, Miss Savannah Bell, who won her elimination last week, she would figure to have a big chance in here as well.
I think Perengulum comes from the Jimmy Takter school, and those horses are always ready this time of year, Derick.
Mm-hmm. So who are you going with in this race? I'm going to go with the one Hypnotic AM. I'm expecting a big rebound performance here. I think she needed that race, and she's going to be ready. Are you on board with that, or you got something else?
No, I have to be on board with that. We've talked to Marcus Melander over the last few years, and he's just straightforward, direct. He's talked about this horse is in another world category, and when you're talking to a trainer who has a horse the caliber of Green Shoe, and he says the things he says about this filly, you have to believe him.
Let's move on to the 7th race on the card. This is another $600,000 crown final for the 2-year-old filly Pacers. And there's no doubt about it that the race goes through Lion Sentinel. Having won 8 of 11 starts, 3 seconds, she's been pretty unbelievable this year.
I happen to agree. She's been unbelievable. I don't know that she's 100%. She never looks 100% to me before a race. She seems to throw it all away when she's in the race. I'm not so sure the rail is the exact place you'd want to be with the number of quality fillies in this race.
Yeah, the rail is definitely a tricky spot. And, at Mohawk, some of the best post positions are 4, 5, 6, 7, that range. Also, and one to look at in here is clearly the 3 Priceless. She won her elimination as well, and she was super fast. But you have another situation with the horse coming in from Indiana. But I think Brandon Bates is maybe a little bit more accomplished as a driver.
I think he's more accomplished as a driver, and I think if you need to have confidence in a horse, certainly Priceless has given Brandon Bates plenty of reason to have confidence. She's got speed, staying power. She's closed. She's been on the front end. She's roughed it, and she's come back and been good every time. So I think he's going to be very, very aggressive here. Certainly not wanting to let the race get away from him. And I do think there are other horses in the race. Even Reflect with Me who looked pretty good early in the year that will show some speed here. And I think any kind of speed is what I'm looking for, like a 52 or 53 half is what I'm looking for here.
A horse I fell in love with, and my pick in this race is the 4 New Year. I mean, I think basically she's done absolutely everything right this year. I mean, her lines are spectacular. She seems to not mind being on the outside. She seems to like to, set her sights on the other horses and just wear them down. I mean, to me, she looks like the complete package here, and I think some people might get thrown off by the fact that she only went 152 last week, whereas the other elimination winners are going 150 and change, and that might help the price a little bit.
I think you'll get your price, Derick. What I'm not so sure about, I mean, I kind of agree with you on the talent standpoint. She has the talent, but I think the other fillies have been on the lead repeatedly and have been able to bounce back off of it. She's not been on the lead. And I kind of wonder, can she carry that speed as fast as the other fillies have carried their speed? That's why I went with number 2, Alicorn, because she's been with these horses much of the year between the Ontario Sire Stakes, the She's a Great Lady. She's competed against this level, and I'm kind of hoping that, driving sensation Louis-Philippe Roy decides let the other ones duke it out, and I'll be coming late.
She certainly has a shot in here, no doubt. So we have Alicorn number 2 for Jay in race number 7. I'm going with the 4 New Year. We're both trying to beat the favorite Lion Sentinel, and maybe Priceless will be close in the action as well. We're going to move on to race number 8. It's another Breeders' Crown event on the trot. 2-year-old colts, $600,000 is on the line, and we're going to look at the replay here soon. But really, this race goes through number 9, Real Cool Sam.
Well, I think from a talent standpoint, he stands out. I think the question marks for Real Cool Sam are the number of appearances since the Peter Houghton on Hambletonian Day, and that's minimal to say the least. Took the bye and got into the final. Obviously, it didn't help him post-wise. He drew the 9-hole, but I thought the horses, all of them last week, were struggling to go in 55. When you look at the fillies that both division eliminations went in 53 and change, and you look at the colts pretty much all flat at the wire in 55, it just seems to set up that the Real Cool Sam is the real horse here.
Well, why don't we take a look at that elimination from last week? I mean, there was one single elimination. Obviously, we see the 8th as a huge long shot, Beads on the lead, and he's going to end up making the final. He's got the rail here. But there were a couple of interesting horses, one being the 5, Chestnut Hill, who made a break early, and perhaps also the 4, Amigo Volo, who was way back early and made a huge recovery just to get into the final.
Derick, it's one of those things that you could be on the wrong side of both of those things. I mean, the horses were tremendous in making the final. Obviously, as you said, Amigo Volo, they didn't think they made the final from where they saw it had to come from. Chestnut Hill was exemplary in making early breaks and coming back. But like I said, you're trotting a 55-mile, not a 53-mile. I expect these horses to be able to go that fast if they don't break. But the fact that they broke, you still have to ask yourself the question, at least in Amigo Volo's position, he's broken in his last 2 starts, one of them at the Red Mile. So it's not track that's bothering this horse. It's something else.
No, listen, I understand that. I just, for me, and I went with Amigo Volo as my top pick, I just feel like this is a very talented horse. I know he's fast enough to win the race. I understand his issues. And if he was the favorite, I wouldn't be anywhere near him. But I know that Real Cool Sam's going to take the majority of the money. He's going to be even money or less in this field. And that means that I'm going to get a fair price on Amigo Volo. And if he breaks, so be it. I knew I was taking that chance going in. I mean, obviously, I don't want 2-1 on him. But if I can get 4-1, 5-1, 6-1 on a horse that I think is every bit as fast as the other horses, I think he's a worthwhile play.
I think it's wishful thinking on your part. I think everyone else could see that he broke last week and made up a huge amount of ground. They could also see he's got the 4-hole, while his rivals got the 9-hole. So I kind of think they're going to be a little closer in price than you're giving them credit for. And that's probably why I'm going with Real Cool Sam, because I think, on even terms, had Real Cool Sam raced, competitively in the last few weeks, people might be looking at him at 3-5 here, and I think he might drift up, above even money. And I think above even money, I think he's a very good play.
Are you at all worried about, the kind of trip he's going to get here? Because I don't see David Miller gunning out from this spot. I think he's going to be kind of looking for a trip.
Well, I thought, I can make the only excuse I can make for him is his dead heat victory at the Red Mile, because he dead heated with a horse that really hadn't been all that good all year, and the mile was not such a great mile. But like I said, I could chalk that up to a lot of off time. I think Jim Campbell has had a fantastic season, had these horses ready. I don't think I think the greatest part about the Woodbine Mohawk surface is that even if you do have the outside, you tend to be able to get away. And I can't think there isn't a horse in the race that wouldn't give Real Cool Sam a hole, because you're going to be able to follow him. So I think he'll get the benefit of favoritism in the early stages of the race, and I think he'll be positioned at least in the top 5 going into the first turn.
Race number 8 on Friday night. Jay went with the 9, Real Cool Sam. I'm going to try the 4, Amigo Volo, and we're going to move on to the final crown race on Friday night. It's race number 9, $600,000 on the line for the 2-year-old Colt Pacers. And this is a really nice race here, where you have a horse like Poppy Rob Hanover, who's basically just beat Tall Dark Stranger, who's never lost before last week. And that was quite a battle they put in last week. And I think it's worth revisiting that battle on the backstretch, and then we'll look to see how they finished up in the stretch. I mean, those two really duked it out in this race, and they went at it.
I think Yannick got a little surprised here that David Miller came full bore with Poppy Rob Hanover. I think his intent, Tall Dark Stranger, was to go a soft clip, and ended up having to push the horse a little bit harder than he wanted to. But Miller meant business. He wanted to see what he had, and he certainly wanted to give a shot to make the final. Tall Dark Stranger coming up empty here, a little surprised, but I thought he was very game in defeat, that it looked like a horse on the inside was going to collar him late, but he rallied back and got the second spot. So Tall Dark Stranger is a fantastic horse, and maybe this just wasn't his night.
No, I agree with you. I think it just wasn't his night. Every horse is entitled to come out and put in a bad performance now and then. I think you're completely correct in your assessment. I think he showed that he was game. He showed the heart of a true champion kind of horse, digging in when it really wasn't his best night. And I'm really expecting him to step back up. We've heard the quotes that maybe his blood work was off, but to me, that didn't really matter much in that. I just felt like Tall Dark Stranger, I still think, is the better horse of the two. Maybe not by a lot, but by a little bit. And we know the price is going to be better this week, and that's why I went his way.
I kind of wish after every losing bet I could go in and say my blood work was bad and see if I can get a refund. But, we can't do that here. We have to actually accept the results as they are. And I don't think there was that much difference between Poppy Rob Hanover and Tall Dark Stranger, no matter what the blood work was prior to last week's race. I think when they met in the Metro, Tall Dark Stranger was on the lead, and Poppy Rob had to come from way back and was very, very effective. So I don't think there's much difference between the horses. What I do think is difference is the strategy and I think Tall Dark Stranger has not really had different kind of trips. He's been either on the lead or sitting second. And I think in this field, the likelihood is he's going to have to do some work and some real heavy lifting and maybe a couple of moves to be where he wants to be. Captain Midnight Horse we haven't talked about, is a horse that has a lot of talent as well. There are other horses in here that can really get out of there. So, Dexter Dunn's driving major bets. He showed a lot of speed at the Red Mile. So I think there's going to be some activity early, and I think that's where Poppy Rob Hanover might have the edge in the fact that he's been off the pace, he's been first over, he's been brushing to the lead. I think he's got that kind of usefulness that might pay dividends here.
But are you willing to accept what could be odds-on price with Poppy Rob Hanover?
There's no way this horse is odds-on here. I absolutely believe that Tall Dark Stranger remains the favorite. I think the storyline again with the blood work that got out, that will get out. It's still a fantastic horse that did win the Metro. Only been beaten once. That record stands for itself. I don't believe Poppy Rob will be the favorite. I think they'll be close, but I don't think he'll be odds-on.
So in the final of the 4 crown races on Friday night, in race number 9, Jay's going with number 3, Poppy Rob Hanover. I'm going with the 7, Tall Dark Stranger. It should be a great night of racing. 4 crown races on Friday. We'll have 8 more crown races on Saturday. Before I let you go, I'll ask you, is there a horse on Saturday you're going to be keying in on?
I tell you, I love Plunge Blue Chip. I just think this was a phenomenal effort last week. This horse has not had the real trip that she needs to win. Aki Svanstedt has already proven in North America in the short time he's been here that he's really, really, really exceptional at getting horses ready for big races. And I think that's his big chance on Saturday night. Unfortunately for him, Six-Pack drew outside in the open trot, but Plunge Blue Chip drew inside. He's got some help, and I think it's going to be a long night for Manchego.
So the Saturday night selection from Jay is Plunge Blue Chip in the Mare Trot. I believe that's a $325,000 race. Jay, thanks for joining me.
Looking forward to it, Derick.
Good luck, everyone.